You're watching Capitol Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Welcome back. When lawmakers officially start the new General Assembly this week and go into this spring, the name of the game is going to be the budget, as always. But this year in particular, with a huge budget deficit looming and some past struggles still leaving some cracks in the Democratic caucuses, it'll be interesting to see how they deal with such a difficult financial situation. This week, I sat down with House Speaker Chris Welch to talk about just that and how he looks to manage his caucus going into a second term as Speaker. Here's our interview with Speaker Welch. House Speaker Chris Welch, thank you so much for joining me today.
Cole, it's a pleasure always.
We're about to have lame duck session kick off here. What's the priority list for you going into this little abbreviated session before the new General Assembly takes over?
Well, I think we're still trying to let everything shake out. There's a lot of conversations being had around several things, but what I want to make sure we do is focus on things that are part of our core values, things that Democrats all believe in. In a short period of time, you want to focus on things that we can agree on.
We saw in the Senate a new clean energy bill get put up yesterday. Are you aware of those negotiations? Are you kind of on board with what that's looking to do? I know there's some modifications to make sure especially the clean energy grid going forward is more secure.
There's been conversations going on around a lot of different topics, energy being one of them. I do understand there's been some positive development on energy, and by the time we're done with lame duck, there could be some action around energy.
Got it. You already mentioned, you just said, by the time we're finished with lame duck, as soon as lame duck's over, you're swearing in the new General Assembly, and you're going to be starting another term here as Speaker. I'm curious what your priorities are for going forward for this spring for this General Assembly.
Well, I think anytime we go into session, the budget is the most important thing that we do. It's the moral document that we all have to go home and talk about to our constituents, and so we know we have our work cut out before us, particularly after the November Gombe report that came out. But we faced those types of issues before. We're prepared to do it. We're going to be ready to go line by line and do the work that the people have sent us here to do.
Have you faced a $3.2 billion projected deficit before? I mean, that's even for some of the situations that Illinois has been in before. That seems pretty daunting for a spring session.
Well, remember, Gombe's job is to be very conservative and sometimes to be gloom and doom, and they're doing their job. They're painting a worst-case scenario if the General Assembly does nothing. If we do nothing, this is what could happen. They've done their job. Now it's time for the legislature to do ours. We have to go line by line through this budget, be responsible, be compassionate, and continue to put balanced budgets on the board that Illinois can be proud of.
There's been a lot of focus on, the governor's role in this, and I've heard a lot of the phrase, him becoming governor no, I guess, for the new year. But does this put you as well in a tough position to have to maybe tell your members no a lot more on some of their more ambitious ideas they want to come in with?
Well, I think going into session, we have to make sure everyone's being realistic. The Gombe report is the Gombe report. ARPA dollars are no longer around. We have to be realistic. And, I do believe that we can pass a balanced budget that's responsible, that's compassionate, that still cares about people across this state. But I think the message is come in, understand the fiscal realities that we live in, and let's all work together to come to some solutions.
How do you make sure that is translated correctly to a very broad, very diverse caucus that you have that has a lot of ideas? It's always look to the House for where some of these bigger ideas kind of can come from during a session.
Well, I think we have to continue to be very inclusive. We have to make sure rank and file is very involved in the budget making process. I learned something going into my second term as Speaker. I learned something new in that second term, and going into a third term, we'll make some tweaks. The goal is to always be more responsive, more inclusive, more democratic, and that's what the House Democratic Caucus represents. We're the voices of people all across this state, and their voices are going to be heard in that budget.
What was that lesson you took away from the second term?
Well, there's some tweaks that could be made to be even more inclusive than we have been. My style of leadership is to empower the rank and file. But I think there's even better ways of doing that, and we're going to explore ways of getting that done.
They're going to be bringing in more revenue to try to fill get rid of the deficit, or there can be the cuts side of it. I'm curious if there's how you strike that balance. If you see this as a problem that can be fixed with cuts, or if this is more structural and there might need to be some more revenues coming in for the state down the line.
Yeah, we did some revenues at the end of last session. We still need to see how those shake out for us. But I think one of the first things we need to do is go line by line through the governor's proposed budget that he will do in February and look for efficiencies. I think we should always start there. That's what taxpayers want us to do. They want us to be mindful of kitchen table issues, be mindful of what things cost for them at the grocery store, and we're going to do that. We're going to go through and look for efficiencies first.
That day-to-day, the life of the people in Illinois, the taxpayers in Illinois, I'm curious if that's even more front and center after what we saw in November with the election, where it seemed like the economy as this broader issue was kind of the prevailing thing on so many people's minds. Does that at least recalibrate in a little bit how business is done in this building, or at least the end goals of this building?
Well, certainly the voters spoke in November, but we heard the voters even before November. We knew kitchen table issues were very important well before November, and that's why we were able to hold the great 78, the record number of members in the House. We were able to knock on doors and address a lot of the issues. We were able to talk about the things we've done in the House to address some of their concerns, like the grocery tax issue, like removing junk fees and things of that nature. Are there more things that we can do? Certainly. I think we need to look at ways to address property taxes all across this state. I think we need to continue to look at ways that's going to put money back in people's pockets, and we're open for ideas.
And I guess with that, though, is this the year to have those, see action on those when we're starting to see at least the revenue that the state knows about right now, looking to come up a little bit short, creating this kind of deficit?
Can you rephrase your question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You were talking about putting money back in the taxpayers' pockets. That takes money out of the state's pocket in that way. So I'm curious if now is the time to have those conversations when the state is staring down a deficit like this.
Well, you have to have everything on the table. I mean, last year we created for the first time a child tax credit. That's putting money back into people's pockets. That child tax credit was needed. We have to continue to find ways to help everyday working people. And that's why you got to be open to new and fresh ideas. You don't want to exclude anything. And that's where we're going to be in the 104th General Assembly. We're listening to all ideas that's going to help working people.
What have those conversations been like, especially since that November report with Senate President Harmon and Governor Pritzker? How have the offices been communicating?
We've had some conversations. We've had some early conversations about what this budget is going to look like, and certainly it's going to take cooperation from us all, from the House, the Senate, the governor's office. We're all going to have to work together to get this done.
Okay. And then just before we get going here, do you yourself have any big legislative priorities you want to see get done in the first year of the 104th here?
Well, I'd like to continue to see us pass balanced, responsible budgets. I'd like to see us continue to do things in the education space, pre-K through college. I like to make sure we're providing trade opportunities for folks that don't want to go to college. College isn't for everyone. We know that, and there's real money that can be made in the trades. And I want to continue to see if there's a way we can address property tax concerns. Property tax issues are real all across this state, and I want to make sure we can figure out a way to address the price of eggs. What can we do from a policy perspective to address the fact that a carton of eggs is more today than it was yesterday? It's all about trying to find ways to help people.
When we come back, we go to our Reporters Roundtable to talk about what lawmakers could have on their plates this lame duck session. We'll be right back.